Mr Speaker.
I call the Honourable Joe Goodhue.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Well, it is indeed a pleasure to be here this afternoon and to rise in support of the Prime Minister's statement. To rise in the knowledge that New Zealanders are looking for steadiness in a government that will look after the things that they hold dearest to their heart. So what are they? What are the things that New Zealanders care about? Well, they care about their health, they care about law and order, they care about having jobs. In fact, they care about education because they know that's the way to the future for their children, and they care about the fact that New Zealand looks after those that are in need. So they want a government that actually can deliver on those things, that has a big picture view of how they will deliver on those things. And I've got to say, it comes back to the economy. Because if the economy is in good shape and growing, as ours currently is, to September last year, growth at 2.3% with predicted 2.7% ahead, an economy that is the envy of many other nations, the lowest unemployment rate at 5.3% since 2009, well, they know that the ship is steady, that the government is delivering on the things that they care about. So they are a little puzzled to see as Minister Paula Bennett has stood on her feet and described the many positions of the opposition. And that in fact tells us why we have a very popular Prime Minister who is delivering on what he said he would do, a brighter future for New Zealand. And it doesn't come by accident, and it doesn't come easily. And that's one of the reasons why our government has set ourselves stretch targets for so many ways we can improve the lives across New Zealand. So let me talk about a wee bit of what is going on at the moment. We know the stability, the cohesion that is seen on this side of the House is just what the people of New Zealand have been looking for. And it is an absolute privilege to serve in a government that is working in this way. We've got a good track record, and we're busy at the moment delivering on the things that the Prime Minister's statement outlined to New Zealanders. There was an enormous list of those, and I'm going to cover off on some of them. In that agenda are a number of examples that I'm going to give to the House this afternoon that are relating to my portfolios. In that respect, I want to talk a little bit about forestry, about primary industries, about social development, and also community and voluntary sector. So, as I said, we're a busy government, and this year the government within the social development portfolio will respond to a review of child, youth and family to ensure our most vulnerable children get the care and the protection they deserve. There's been many reports and reviews. It's time to have action that gets things right, that puts children, those very vulnerable children, in the centre of being protected. On that note, I also want to allude to an announcement from Minister Antoli today of the 10,680 children whose caregivers have received what amounts to $5.18 million of benefit. That's the school and year startup grants. So that's caregivers who are receiving either the unsupported child's benefit or the orphan's benefit. And it amounts to a really good hand up at the beginning of the year. It's $400 to $550 for each child. There's 13,500 eligible for it, and thus far 10,680 have collected that really helpful start to the year for the most vulnerable children. We're going to be pressing on with our social housing reforms to do a better job for tenants as well. What I know is this is really tough stuff. It's stuff that hasn't been able to be achieved in the past, but we are tackling it as a government. We're going to be completing the assessment of the emissions trading scheme, and I know that many people in the forestry sector are well engaged in submitting on that. Building a stronger economy, and that 2.7% predicted growth doesn't come by accident. That strong economy needs to attract investment. The jobs that will be created out of the economy not by the government, because that's not sustainable, out of the economy, will be filled by skilled New Zealanders because of our emphasis on upskilling right the way through the education system, right from early childhood education, where we have record numbers engaged, right through the primary school system, where we're actually measuring how young people are getting on and making sure that their families understand how they're getting on. A really important part of the triangle, the family, the child and the education system, or the teachers within it. So that's a really important thing that we're dedicated to, and we're seeing great strides in there. We're seeing many more young people getting NCEA level 2, and it's tough, but it's worth putting our effort, our shoulder into that. So I want to move on a little bit to primary industries. Because, in fact, as we know, primary industries have been very much at the centre of the debate at the moment around the TPP. And I thought I would deal with not the conjecture, not the misinformation, not the it might happen, not the scaremongering. I would stick to the facts. And when I've been addressing public audiences in the Rangitata electorate, they've been really interested in the facts, and they've said, oh, really? Gosh, wish we knew that when we were watching all the protesters. So, fact number one, well, it was 2 weeks ago when we hosted the signing of the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. Fact number two, 12 Asia-Pacific countries. Fact number three, it's our biggest free trade deal. And fact number four, something that's often forgotten in the rhetoric of the opposition, successive governments have worked to get free trade agreements with countries like the United States, like Japan and Canada, for about 25 years. Good Lord, this should be something to celebrate then, shouldn't it? It will create significant new trade and investment opportunities, and it will make it easier because it will reduce barriers for Kiwi companies to work with their overseas business partners. That means more jobs, more income for New Zealanders, and it also means more flow through into the social sector spending. Another fact that seems to have fallen shy of the memories of the opposition, in fact, the groundwork was laid by one former Prime Minister, Helen Clark, alongside of Phil Goff. So that's a hard one for them to swallow. As the Prime Minister often says, and he's right, we'll never get wealthy just selling to ourselves. We are a country of trade. So if we didn't trade in fish, what would that mean for Nelson? If we didn't trade in kiwi fruit, where would the Bay of Plenty be? If we didn't trade in wine at record levels, where would Marlborough and the Wairarapa be? Another fact, 800 million customers across the Asia and Pacific. So I just want to briefly touch on a couple of specific examples so that the members can have in their mind a dollar figure. New Zealand exports 839 million in wine into the TPP countries, those 12 nations. And yes, already, and with an estimated tariff saving of 10 million per year when the TPP is fully implemented, they're rubbing their hands together because this represents an opportunity for the wine sector.
When does that happen, John? What year?
Actually, I don't have the year in front of me. But I absolutely know, since the wine industry put out a press release immediately, that it represents a real gain for them, and they are very supportive of it. Why don't you check out tonight and ask them exactly that? Forestry, $1.5 billion worth of forestry products in the 2014 year into that TPP region. Estimated savings of 9 million, again when it's fully implemented, but most of those gains for the forestry are immediately, Mr. Lees-Galloway, immediately for most of those as it happens. And I'm actually going to carry on because I've got more good news stories. In this House, we have been united in years gone past, united on free trade, but it would seem that it is falling off the radar of the opposition, which simply means to me, and as it's coming time for me to close my comments today, it simply means to me that sadly, the opposition no longer care about creating jobs for New Zealanders, making incomes for New Zealanders what they can be rather than what they wish they were in the past. And so it's a disappointing way forward. As Minister Bennett's already said, they're not united on that particular plank either. But as I conclude my comments in support of the Prime Minister, those New Zealanders that I've shared the facts with say, what's all the fuss about? Let's get on with it. Thank you.
Well done.